Okay.
All
We
right.
are live. It said so right there.
It does.
That's awesome.
No comments yet, but I didn't expect any because we just went live.
That is correct.
Okay. And we have 0 viewers, so we'll hang on for a moment.
The notification just came through that you are live.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Otherwise, we're just talking to ourselves, which amuses the heck out of us,
It
honestly.
really does, actually. That's probably one of our more fun things to do.
You know, we actually just started this for those of you who watch us in the future. Welcome if you've never seen us before, but we actually just started this because we found it amusing. And certain people who heard it, we started as a podcast. And some people we know said, okay, you actually need to video this because I understand what you look like when you say this thing or Bessie says that thing or you say that thing to Miss Mercy. Whoops, I had a John. Sorry, that was too much personal information. Anyway.
I'm pretty sure that anybody who actually watches this podcast knows what my actual name is.
Probably. Well, yeah,
just saying.
It's not like I haven't mentioned it before. All right. So
true.
anyway,
Also true.
So we did go. Oh, we now have viewers. That's cool. So anyway, we started out, and so we ended up morphing it into a live once a month cocktail of the month video, and we've had pretty good response, really. I mean, comparatively for how little we actually.
Promote it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Promote it. We don't really.
We're hoping to change that in 2024,
right?
But this year. So anyway, this year we're doing kind of a. We tried to do a theme year. Last year I don't remember what the theme was, but we had one, right?
I think it was kind of like the 20s prohibition.
Oh,
cocktails.
Right, prohibition cocktails. Yeah. I mean,
we
like.
Well, we did the drinking with the saints and the and we also did the a drinkable feast.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like prohibition and religious holidays.
Correct.
Mixed up, which seemed to an excuse for a holiday, Mardi Gras.
Yay! Well, that was this year.
But this year we kind of we thought about it. We're like, what gives us the broadest range of possibilities that people might actually care about? And we asked like 3 people, and they all said, "Oh, travel would be great."
I think the 3 people are these 2 plus our executive producer.
I didn't say who they were.
That would probably be 3 if I was just guessing.
So anyway, welcome to the TSL Cocktail of the Month for May 2023.
Yes, hello. Thank you for joining us.
All right.
And you will see that the curlers are in full effect this month, and that will be because glamour takes time, it turns out. And I did not have time to set my hair yesterday, so I did it today after church, and this is what we're going to look like tonight. So there you go.
Now we have it on good authority from one of the ladies that the Miss Mercy follows on YouTube, that if you actually put a turban over this, people will think it's an actual hairstyle because they have no idea what curlers are.
Or they just don't pay attention much, really. So I'm good with it. I just, the airflow, this is why it's not a scarf. That's why I've got some airflow to try to make sure that it gets dry. So, yeah. So hopefully you won't see this very often, but you're seeing it this month.
Or start a new fashion trend.
No.
Oh, come on. I think TikTok. Take notice.
Anyway.
People in curlers on TikTok would be fantastic.
Miss Mercy's not on TikTok, so there you go.
Neither am I, but I hear it'd be great. All right. So we're ready to move on?
I thought we were, but you kind of keep... what's the word? Riffing. You're riffing.
Okay. Well, today we're going to actually go to a location in the United States. We're going to go to Mount Vernon, Virginia, which happens to be.
I thought this was my turn to do it.
No, it is.
Okay.
I'm just giving them a little preamble to where you're going.
So this month we're traveling back in time.
Oh. So you stole that one from me. Okay. Wait, I got to hide this one. I got no idea what's happening. Anyway, so we're going back. When are we going back to?
In time.
Oh, okay. To the 1700s.
Oh, sure.
Right. Which, how cool is that? I mean, I thought I was going to have to actually put wait and put an order in from a DeLorean time machine and then my Mr. Fusion. And instead we can just go there. Mm-hmm. For the magic of the interwebs.
Yep.
It's very cool.
It's very cool.
All right. I was going to give them a little bit of history about the population of Virginia.
Oh, suit yourself.
All right. Don't have to.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So, basically, the state of Virginia, where Mount Vernon is located, currently is home to about 8.2 million people, according to the 2023 census.
A lot of people.
Which I think is probably the 2022 census, since we're not through 2023 yet. So
Probably.
People may move. But it's an approximation. It actually became a state in 1788, which is after the founding of our country. Wow. I think old George probably still lived there before that. And at that time, the population was about 1.2 million.
Wow.
So it's grown a bit.
Yeah.
Now, George actually had an estate that is still, and there is still a state there at Mount Vernon, that has a functional grist mill and a distillery. So they still make whiskey there and things like that. But the drink we were sampling today doesn't actually require a distillery.
Good to know.
All right. So,
or a grist mill.
Did I go too fast? I mean,
no,
did I give you a surprise?
No, yeah.
All right. Well, this is where you get into it.
Really?
It can be. Oh, yeah. I just want to let them know, get to this point. No, all right, fine.
This is really fun, because here's a funny story about the Mad Farmer and Miss Mercy. When we do these, we don't share with each other like anything about what we're talking about. And I thought I was doing the research for this one, but it turns out that the Mad Farmer did some of his own research. So you're going to get a little bit of Miss Mercy and a little bit of Mad Farmer.
Well, I thought what was happening was that you were doing the research on the drink and the history of the drink. And I was trying to weave a little bit of the location in case they wanted to go visit. And I hear.
Now that would have been information to share.
So we're learning together, folks,
we are.
Studio audience and all. But turns out that Miss Mercy's actually been to Mount Vernon.
It's very cool.
I have been.
Can recommend.
I have been Mount Vernon adjacent. I saw the sign to go to it when we went to Monticello few years ago.
Sure.
And that was a fantastic trip. I can highly recommend that one.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
I'm looking forward at some point to having her explain to me what's happening at Mount Vernon. But go ahead now if you care to.
No. What do you got next there?
Nothing. It's just, again, you can read.
Let's go.
All
right. So our cocktail this month is called Cherry Bounce. And it's not actually a cocktail. There were not a lot of mixed drinks, as you can see there on the screen. So, but here's kind of a fun thing. Miss Mercy and the Mad Farmer have a cherry shrub from the Swamp Gardener. And so the Ozark Chicken Man suggested, when I said, I've got all these cherries and I don't know what to do with them, he suggested that we make some cherry bounce. And I was like, what's that? I've never heard of cherry bounce. And he said, well, Martha Stewart has a recipe for it. And I said, oh, okay, I'll check that out.
And I thought, Martha Stewart, so it's a jailhouse kind of a brew?
Wow.
Too soon?
Too soon.
So
I went to marthastewart.com and I found this recipe, and it called for sour cherries, which I had, and they suggested white rum, but if you read the article, it was mostly because it would bring out the color of the cherries, which is lovely. Nothing wrong with that. But a lot of the other articles that I looked at really suggested rye whiskey, which if you've listened to the Mad Farmer and Miss Mercy at all, you know that we usually have the rye on hand for Manhattans. So I decided to use our rye whiskey and the sour cherries to make our version of the cherry bounce. So this version that she had was 22 ounces of fresh sour cherries and then white rum. We used that rye whiskey, and then you could use the frozen cherries as a garnish. You let that sit for about a week to a month, and then you strain it off. What I didn't do is very important.
We don't know if it's important or not.
Well, it turned out to be. Because what I didn't do is add sugar. And she said in her recipe on the site that this recipe didn't have sugar in it, which it didn't. But if you wanted to, you could add like a quarter cup. And I thought, we're not really sugar people. So I didn't add the sugar. I just set it down, put it away, forgot about it.
Turns out we might be sugar people.
So we let ours sit for about 11 months, which is about 10 months longer than they recommended. So that's okay. The next step that you would like to do is strain the mixture off of the cherries and then discard the solids and pour it in a jar. Some of the information that I looked at said that you could take those same cherries if you pitted them, which I didn't do this time, and make something out of it. So I think probably what I'll do the next time is make maybe a cheesecake or something with those cherries that I discard from the alcohol.
Can you imagine loaded cherry cheesecake? That sounds wonderful. I think we should take it to a church function and just slide it into the buffet and see how things work out.
Cannot recommend.
Okay.
So,
that's why they call me the Mad Farmer. I'm nuts.
So while he was talking about Mount Vernon, which we're going to show you that recipe in a couple minutes, from the modernized version of that recipe, it actually dates back to 1693, where it was referenced in Robertson's Phraseology Generalis as a mixed drink called Cherry Bouncer. And then also George Washington, his diary reveals that in September of 1784, he packed liquid provisions in the form of cherry bounce, port, and Madeira wine for a trip west, because back in the time, alcohol was actually safer than water to drink. So that was a thing that they did.
And I think that we probably are at that time now in current times, because, they don't tell you from your local water system if your water's gone bad for like weeks.
Oh, well.
So drink
booze. That's your
and you
story.
don't have that problem. It seems safe.
So
what could possibly go wrong?
So now the interesting thing, which the Mad Farmer already shared with you, was that it is probably more likely that it was made with whiskey because Washington owned the grist mill and the distillery. And also a bounce was considered to be a colloquialism for cherry brandy because the two are pretty similar. So we decided to... Next time, we're going to try it again because the cherries are coming on. We've got our wild cherry bush out there. They are sour cherries, but we're going to try it again. And we are going to this time follow the Mount Vernon recipe that they recommend, which will be coming on the screen momentarily.
Now, one short aside that I will share.
Okay.
Well, when we first got the cherry bush, we did not tree. We did not know what an actual ripe cherry looked like in the wild. Okay. And so the very first time that we had cherries come onto the tree, we were just so excited. We had fruit, right? So we gathered some of that together. It looked a little green to us, but we didn't really know.
They were red.
They were red.
Yeah.
They did not. And they were the worst thing I've tasted since a kumquat. I mean,
so
that's a different story for a different time. But we okay. And so we're like, oh, this is an ornamental cherry tree. Turns out it was fine. They just weren't ripe. And so when we found out when they ripened and they were fine, it was like it's all better. But it's just one of those stories that, like, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And so if you decide to put one of these in, and it looks perfect, and you take it off and it tastes like the worst thing you've ever tasted, let it ripen up a few more weeks and then try it again. You'll probably be better off.
So the other side of that is that because of that, I didn't do anything with the cherry bush for like most of the season. And then I went back out there later because I was doing something else out there. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. These actually look like something. These cherries actually look pretty good. So by that time, the birds had eaten like 3/4 of them. So it was ridiculous. But I did manage to get enough for the recipe. So the next time we make it, we're going to do the Mount Vernon bounce, which she's got on the screen there. So it's got sugar.
Now, you may want to reduce this recipe slightly.
Well, probably.
I mean, we made about 1.5 pounds of bounce the first time. Yeah. This calls for 10 to 12 pounds of fresh cherries. So this would make about a gallon and a half.
Right.
Yeah.
So since this isn't a cocktail, we're just going to kind of show you what we started with and what it ended up looking like. And we do actually already know what it tastes like. I know we usually don't try to taste them, but we tried this because we had it.
Don't worry. I promise you'll still get the same reaction.
You're not wrong. So this is what we used. We used our whiskey Riverset rye. So you can kind of see he's got the, I don't know why he's got the flashlight.
Well, I was just trying to show how the color, but I guess I can see it through the light.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious what that's looking like.
You can see through it.
Yes, that's correct. So this is what we used, and this is what we used for our Manhattans. So this, however, after 11 months of sitting in some cherries, is what the bounce came out looking like.
I can't tell if I'm on it.
There you go. And so that color is gorgeous. It's really lovely, and it smells amazing.
I have almost no sense of smell, and I can still smell the stuff.
It smells like a perfect cherry pie. It smells amazing. And so I think that once we do the addition of the sugar and the cinnamon sticks, and just the rest of the recipe, that this is really going to come together. And I think we're going to try it in a perfect Manhattan once we have the new bounce.
We may also just sip it so we can compare.
Also true.
It'll be about 3 or 4 months because we got to let the cherries get ripe. We have to put it down.
Yeah, it's a whole fall thing, I'm sure. So
all right.
So we are going to go ahead and give this a bit of a taste. It's got a lovely smell.
Yeah, here it comes.
Man, that's good.
The smell is good.
Mm-hmm.
The tartness is a little off the scale. For those of you who know Eric's tart meter at Farmer's Tart Meter, it's just one of those nights. It's not very high.
And it's even tart to Miss Mercy, and she actually typically usually likes tart things. But it's a very good beginning because we are very excited to try this next recipe. And so that I think kind of maybe covers everything that we've got on the cherry bounce. It's a really neat thing. And I think that when you can kind of find some of those recipes that have some history to them, it's kind of fun to play with them and see what you can come up with in the modern take.
And this ties us a little closer to our founding father and first president.
There you go.
I feel like I'm a little more patriotic when I drink this, even though it's not that great. Still better than
a bumbo.
Oh yeah. That's a low bar to get over.
It really is.
All right.
So as we always say, drink responsibly and get into the spirit of things.
Thanks
so much. Bye-bye.
Wow.